Melissos and Zeno. Melissos, a philosopher who lived in Samos in the 5th century BC, was a student of Parmenides. Some sources even say that he was also a student of Heraclitus. Melissos explained Parmenides' idea of being is one, which was told in poetic expressions in a simpler language and prose that everyone could understand. According to him, if being were not one, it would either have a limit within itself or be limited by another being, which is impossible according to Melissos. According to Melissos, the universe is limitless, unchanging, immobile, indivisible, eternal, and homogeneous. From this thought, he arrives at two important conclusions. First, pain does not really exist, because to suffer means that existence is lacking, which is impossible. Second, there is no such thing as emptiness, because emptiness must be part of non-existence, and there is no such thing as non-existence. Therefore, it is not possible for anything to change places. Because everywhere in the universe is already full, there is no empty space for them to move. If there were things like decrease, increase, or change of shape in the universe would one day change so much that it wouldn't even recognize itself, and maybe even cease to exist. According to him, even the slightest change in the universe would be enough to destroy it completely. Just like Melissos, Zeno of Elea, whom Aristotle considered the founder of dialogue, lived between approximately 490 and 430 BC and was a student of Parmenides. Zeno also put forward very famous arguments, especially on the impossibility of motion. These arguments, known as Zeno's paradoxes in the history of philosophy, were actually created to support and provide a better understanding of the teachings of his teacher, Parmenides. According to Zeno, distances and motions can be divided infinitely. According to him, there is no such thing as motion, because something that moves must necessarily travel half the distance before reaching its destination. For example, to reach the end of a stadium, you have to cover an infinite number of distances, because first you have to go half that distance, then half of that half, then half of that, and so on forever. As a result, since every distance can be divided in two, there is actually no definite first distance to be covered. This means that such a race has no starting point. If there is no beginning, there is no end. So, according to Zeno, motion is just an optical illusion, an illusion for us. Zeno's most famous paradox is the Achilles and the Tortoise paradox, named after the Greek hero Achilles. According to this paradox, if the fast runner Achilles races a tortoise and the tortoise starts the race a little ahead of Achilles, Achilles can never overtake the tortoise, because when Achilles reaches the point where the tortoise started, the tortoise will have moved a little further. When Achilles runs that distance, the tortoise will have moved a little further again, and so on. As a result, Achilles will never be able to catch the tortoise. Another famous Zeno paradox is the arrow paradox. According to this paradox, imagine an arrow shot from a bow and moving forward. The arrow will be at a certain position at every moment in time. If a moment is a specific and single point, the arrow has no time to move at that moment, meaning it is stationary at that moment. This means that the arrow will also be stationary in future moments. As a result, since the arrow will be stationary at every moment, it is not actually moving. What Parmenides and his students Melissos and Zeno have in common is that they opened a new page in the history of philosophy by developing a different way of thinking and method than the thinkers before them. However, since it was Parmenides who taught them all how to think, undoubtedly his teaching always has a more important place. Parmenides' entire philosophy is based on understanding what being is and what its nature is. In other words, his philosophical problem is solely and exclusively the problem of being. According to him, the most important thing is to understand that there are two different paths of knowledge, and that the conclusions reached at the end of these paths are very different from each other. According to him, being is one, whole, unborn, eternal, unshakable, complete, motionless, unique, continuous, and limitless. With these ideas, Parmenides brought the problem of being to the fore, instead of the questions about the structure of the universe of the Eleatic School, and gave a new direction to philosophy.